Today we're looking at what's called vishesha lagna, or alternate ascendants is in translation. And this is a really crucial concept within Jyotish. And basically these alternate ascendants are different points in the chart from which we can read the chart for different aspects of a person. And there's many different uses to this, and it gives us a really more in-depth understanding of the person, as well as a complexity to the chart than is just looking at the basic rashi chart. In this video, we're just going to introduce some of the key concepts here, and mainly using this to ground your idea of how the signs and houses kind of interchange. And we'll be looking a little more about how planets shift in this, which can be really huge for how a person understands themselves and their chart and their life and how they're interfacing with the world. And so in order to look at this, first we want to look at just our basic rashi chakra, the basic birth chart. And so here we have a North Indian chart that's been modified with their circle chart drawn around, so we can start to see how these things shift here. Now, as you know from the study in the signs section, that in the normal birth chart, whatever sign is on the ascendant, that whole sign gets mapped into that first house, and then everything else is allotted. So here we see the green lines are the borders for each of the signs. And so you'll see that ascendant is in an early degree of Libra, but that whole sign of Libra gets mapped into the first house. And then the second house there we see is Scorpio, and the green lines aligning. Take a moment to get used to this if you haven't seen the circle chart. This is from Sri Jyotish Star software, and we'll show some alternative ways to work with this later. But this is the basic rashi chart, and you'll see little dots there for the planets and where they are. This basic birth chart, it shows what's considered more of the divine order or the natural order. It can be seen as the truth of our lives from that higher perspective. And it's seen this way because it's not giving primacy to the ascendant here. As you see, it's in the early degree, but it's giving primacy to the signs, to what's beyond our specific location in the world, because that ascendant is really specific to our own personal location in the world and where we are when we're born, whatever is rising there on the ascendant. And so if you want, you can picture this as if a view from above, if you will, a view from the heavens, which shows much greater insight into what's actually unfolding in our life. And this is what we use in standard birth chart interpretation. And so from this, instead of mapping that's each sign to each house, we can take the ascendant mark and put that as the middle of the first house. And so here the ascendant is pinned to the center of the first house, and then you take 15 degrees back and 15 degrees forward from that ascendant point to create whatever's being placed there in the first house, commonly called an equal house system. And here you see the planets start to shift and they start to move, and it becomes a dynamic picture here. You also notice that the green lines that represented the signs are now shifting. So in the first house, we have some of Libra as well as some of Virgo. But you'll notice there that we place the ascendant right in the middle of the house, which will correspondingly shift the rest of the chart. And so what this represents is it's giving primacy to the individual and their perspective on life, what they think is happening in life, and how they're interacting with the world, what they're getting from the world. However, what happens is this shifts planets. So you can see here, Mars has now shifted. It was in the 12th, but Mars has now shifted into the first house. Likewise, Mercury has shifted from the second to the third house. Jupiter has shifted from the 10th to the 11th house. So what this shows is basically these planets and how the individual is perceiving what they're getting from the placement of these planets is very different from the birth chart, from the natural order of things. So it shows a certain confusion in the mind of the individual with each of the charts. And so I'm just calling this to attention here so you can understand how the signs, how the houses are lining up so you're grounded. But also so when you're looking through your chart, there might be some reference why things aren't quite perhaps making sense with how you might perceive your life, perceive the world, perceive things around you. And this chart here is called the bhava chakra. So the birth chart is rashi chakra. This is bhava chakra, and a very crucial chart. And another interesting concept too with this chart is that oftentimes the planets will shift actually, and depending on the person's chart, not everyone, but in some they can show more of the placements within a Western's chart, and it may help explain, I can't say this for 100% fact, but it may help explain why some people either prefer one system over another, or why one system speaks to different people over another. But just know that there is many avenues in Jyotish to get a very complex and detailed understanding of the person, many of which a lot of astrologers these days aren't aware of or don't use for a variety of reasons. Along with this chakra, there's one other main chakra to look at, and this is called what's some people call Sripati or Bhava Chalita chakra. This takes into account the warping of the signs based on longitude and latitude calculations. So we know that depending the further north we go and the further south we go on the equator, there's a warping that happens to the zodiac due to signs rising at different times. And so this chart we're not going to concern ourselves with too much, but you can see here how there's some vast distortions in here and how the signs are aligned, and which has, once again, it has a specific use. So all these charts, lots of people say, Western uses this and Jyotish uses that, but all these charts are used within Jyotish, but they all have a specific purpose, and we're looking at specific things when we're using each of these systems. So it's important to be clear on what you're using it for. So we're not going to concern ourselves here with this right now, but just so you're aware that there is more to this whole topic, and we're just going to be concerned more with the bhava chakra and with the bhava lagna today. For a lot of you may be using the J-Hora software, so it's very easy to get that first chart, the bhava chakra chart, up. Basically, all you have to do is right-click anywhere on the houses over here. You'll see that this long menu comes up, and you just use the bhava or chalita chakra, and you use it based on the birth chart, and that will then draw up the alternate chart there in whichever window you've clicked on. So you can play around with that to get a feel. So here, once again, we've used the chart of BKS Iyengar. On the left, you'll see his rashi chakra, and on the right is the bhava chakra, which we looked at earlier. So this here represents Mr. Iyengar's perception of himself in the world and what he's getting, what he's receiving, what's happening in the world. And so you'll notice here that if you planet shift, and this is where it gets really interesting, both for study